Hi, it's Retro Nerd Girl, and I have a movie that I wanted to share that with you guys that I had just saw, not like literally an hour ago. It is Scott Pilgrim versus the World, and this was a movie that was released in 2010. And when everybody else was enjoying this movie, I, for some reason, was doing something else. But I saw all of the clips for it and I thought it was very interesting. Just did not have the time to sit down and watch this, but finally I do have the time now. Just a few bits of information about the film. Scott Pilgrim versus the World is a 2010 romantic action comedy film co-written, produced, and directed by Edgar Wright. Just let you know, I am reading this from Wikipedia. They do tend to get a couple of things wrong, but on the most part, general information. How bad could it be? Well, you don't know, but anyway, let's continue. This is actually based on the graphic novel series Scott Pilgrim by Bryan Lee O'Malley. It stars an ensemble cast with Michael Cera as Scott Pilgrim, a slacker musician who is trying to win a competition to get a record deal while also battling the 7 evil exes of his new girlfriend, Ramona Flowers, played by Mary Elizabeth Winstead. It is definitely a lot of fun, in my opinion. If I can just give like a general thing, it's immature. It isn't a highbrow event. It is definitely a lot of interesting concepts, groovy concepts, interesting visuals that mix the genre of cartoons, gaming. There's a huge gaming influence. I would say even grunge, there's pop, there's punk. There's a lot of different influences in this. I believe it is a reflection of the time in which it was created, which was the early aughts. People were experimenting with a lot of things at that point. I think this is sort of a reflection of the world changing and becoming something a little bit different. On your right is the graphic novel, which I spoke of earlier, which this is inspired by or adapted from, and Scott Pilgrim's precious little life. I mean, the title itself is very hilarious. A lot of the titles are very funny. I was actually inspired to watch this because of a recent Netflix series, Scott Pilgrim Takes Off, which I enjoyed fully, and I had a lot of fun with that. Definitely has a lot of the same flavors, and is a take on this movie, but veers off just a little bit and sort of like an what if things didn't turn out the way it was supposed to happen in this movie. And here we have Alan Mark Weber as Stephen Stills, the lead singer of the band Sex Bob. He's quite serious, and every once in a while he does get goofy, but he plays it pretty simply, and he very grounded, very grounded. There is also Alison Pill as Kim Pine, who happens to be an ex of Scott's. That's working very closely with him in the band. And so this is very interesting because there's some tension between them, and that's very interesting on camera. And so one of the things that I would have to say that is the strongest element in here is definitely the visuals that we see. It definitely feels like this has captured a lot of the visuals from the animation or the graphic novel, and also has an effect of being sort of very graphic novel-y or very surreal. It's not operating on any realistic plane at all. This is all magic and mystery and lore. None of it is grounded at all. So we're dealing with a full-on fantasy. Maybe some of this is happening in Scott Pilgrim's mind. We have often dream sequences and moments where people go off into different dimensions. It's a lot of fun in that way. If you don't mind, having an out of body experience with your characters, this is definitely something that happens in the film. For me, I enjoyed it. I loved all that stuff. I have a few complaints about the movie, but definitely on the most part, I really enjoyed that. We have the band Sex Bob. They are actually pretty good. I think they're a really good band. It has that 2010s rock punky kind of inspired, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. That was great. The music is definitely top notch. It was that way in the Netflix show as well. So I do recommend both if you like really raspy, grimy, but loud and obnoxious rock music. This is for you. You'll like it. You'll like it. We have an adorable character here. This is Ellen Wong playing Knives Chau, and she is so cute and adorable, just bubbly, just infectiously upbeat. And unfortunately, she is maybe a smidge too young to be hanging out with with Scott Pilgrim, but they just started dating or seeing each other, if you will. Nothing's happened physically. They're just barely, they don't even, they barely hold hands. They're just hanging around each other. But it is definitely growing to be something. She's taking it a lot more seriously than he is, and he thinks it's charming and cute. So why not do it? And I was really fascinated by their relationship, because it isn't a serious relationship for him, but he is definitely enjoying it. And I was like, what is it that he's getting out of it? And I think it's just the fascination that she's upbeat and she's so into him, and that's something that he needed, because unfortunately he has been dumped by someone. It's been about a year, but it still stings for him, and so he needs a rebound person, unfortunately. The biggest issue that they have, though, is the fact that she's 17 and he is 22. And yeah, that's a in 5 years it's not going to matter, but at the age of 17, it does matter that he is 22. So I think all the friends and everyone has been really harping on that for Scott to not date this 17-year-old, because it's not appropriate. Now, everybody has their opinion on this, so I'm not going to, I won't interject, but the proper thing, that's the legal thing to do, is to wait. Let's just say that. So Scott has been having dreams about a girl who skates into his view. This has really got him intrigued. He's trying to figure out, like, who is she? Am I dreaming about a girl I've never met before? Well, he finally does see this girl, and he goes totally gaga for her. And I do like that. I like the fact that he goes gaga for her. The biggest issue is that he doesn't tell his 17-year-old girlfriend, and that's a big deal. It is a real, like, messed up if you're dating one person and the other. But it seems like every time he's about to tell Knives that he's interested in someone else, there seems to be something that gets in the way, or she just seems to drown him out, personality wise. So he just goes with it, and that's a problem that's brewing, let's say, in the story. So he meets this girl. It's Ramona Flowers, and he's been given instructions not to talk to her. He still pursues her anyway. It is cute. It is awkward. Maybe painfully awkward. It is comedic and very, very, in a way, charming too. And yes, very awkward. That's the best way I can describe this whole event. Very awkward. But she has something very unique going on with her. She has access to interdimensional doors, and her purse has also is like a interdimensional storage where she can put really huge things inside of her purse. So she has some strange abilities in which the graphic novel, the series on Netflix, and this movie both all describe in great detail and in the same manner. It's very interesting seeing this in live action versus watching it in animation. Very, very different. I've said this many times before. I don't know how many times I'm going to say this, but you can do so much more in animation that you can't do in live action. And so while looking at this movie, even though it is definitely well done for its time, it definitely broke some new ground in its day for what it was doing visually and storytelling wise. I feel as if, for sure, animation trumps all when it comes to really delivering psychedelic images. So I guess that's one of the reasons why I really love animation. I really love animation for that purpose. And the visuals here are doing it, but they're not quite the same as what I would experience in the animated form. Now, like I said, there's just this weird tension between them, and there is chemistry between the two, this couple, but it just is awkward and strange. And Scott Pilgrim is an just an awkward by nature person. He's very awkward by nature. What he doesn't know about Ramona is that she has 7 evil exes, and it's so funny because all along he's trying to figure out like, okay, what do you mean by that? What are you talking about? And it doesn't quite sink in that there are evil exes out there. He's actually at this point living with his roommate that is played by Kieran Culkin as Wallace Wells. And Wallace Wells is a very interesting character because he has lots of lovers, and he and Scott is always getting in the way because he doesn't have a job at the moment. It's interesting looking at a movie in which the main character does not have a job. So he just does whatever he wants, and it's all ridiculous. It's a great entertainment. What are you gonna say? It's great entertainment. Wallace is basically taking care of Scott Pilgrim constantly, so it's very interesting. So here are the evil exes, and we have let's see if I can get them all named up. So each one of the exes they formed a legion of evil exes. At the top of it is Gideon. He is the one who is responsible for getting everybody together and Ramona's last boyfriend. Now, they can all fight excellently, and it's really kind of interesting how they all know kung fu and they all know it expertly, and it's just as you can see, very cartoonish visuals, which I love. And I think they all stand out as unique to me. And that's probably the interesting part of this story is that you have 7 exes and they all are ridiculous. They're all actually ridiculous. And so you remember all of them. They are very memorable. Each one of the exes has a superpower, if you will, or something that puts them over the edge of in their fighting style. And so Matthew Patel has these demon hipster chicks that appear out of nowhere and do a lot of damage. It's very exciting to see, and the girls are absolutely incredible to see in live action. They're not too bad in their drawn form either. It's just so cute, and also it's silly, it's creative, but also it's having a lot of fun with this genre, sort of like comedy action genre, if you will. And then we have superstar Lucas Lee. His superpower is having all of his body doubles fight for him, and it is really hilarious. Then we have Todd Ingram, who is dating Scott's ex-girlfriend, Envy Adams, and he has a special power, what is called the vegan edge. So so if you're a vegan and you haven't eaten meat, you get this vegan edge power that allows you to do all sorts of incredible magical stuff. And it's really interesting that it's being played by Brandon Routh, who is a former Superman. He once played Superman in Superman Returns. I did see one Christmas movie with him, The 9 Lives of Christmas or something, or I'm not quite, and such a cute story, and he's wonderful. Now, this is not one of the exes that need to fight, and this character does not fight in the story. Played by Brie Larson, she is Envy Adams, and she's a singer, and it just so happens that Brie Larson is actually singing in this movie, and it's really good. I was blown away to find out that she actually sung the song that she's singing here. So that was really cool. I'm like, wow, you got a complete other career if you want as a singer. And then this is one of my favorite characters. This is Roxy Richter, and she happens to be one of the exes too. I think the way it's explained is like, is that Ramona had an experimental phase. So that's funny. And then, but this character is really good because she can disappear and reappear again. Then she also has this really incredible weapon. I'm not so sure what it's called. Maybe you guys know what it's called, but she's a really cool weapon, and she's really spicy, a very spicy character. She's like, very brash, and sort of reminds me of Tank Girl a little bit. But yeah, I really like that character. Wish that she was in it a little bit more. And so because Scott Pilgrim does not want to fight a girl, well, Ramona steps in and is like, I'll take care of this. And there's also another workaround in which even though she defeats her, she can't banish her because those aren't the rules, right? The rules is that Scott has to fight them, and so he does. There's a great workaround, so it doesn't look like he's hitting a girl. Ramona goes behind him and kind of, makes him move. And blocks and hits and all those things, and I thought that was really great. It had a feeling to me of the old school Shaolin, of the Hong Kong martial artists from back in the 70s and 80s. Really felt like that again, and I was like, wow, they're so cool. And they were using all the tricks from that era of martial arts, and I love that kind of old school fighting style, not only style, but also using the stunt work to do all of this. You can see that a lot of this, there's a lot of stunts that were achieved here, and a lot of those stunt people did an incredible job. So kudos to all the stunt people who worked on this film. It was incredible as far as like what they were able to coordinate with the action. Yeah, it's definitely, the fight coordinators get a huge prize for this one. It's really great. And there was so much energy in the fighting too. People were on their toes, and it felt really good to see that stuff. So I really did love it. Then the last of the the last grouping are the twins, the Katayanagi twins. They are basically musicians that have these abilities to create these two dragons, basically take out the opponents in any battle that they have. And it's very interesting. But hey, once Sex Bob decided they're going to play, guess what? They have a killer gorilla that shows up and takes care of those dragons. It was wonderful to see that, because that really felt like not only a game, but it reminded me a little bit of Big Trouble in Little China when the two main characters suddenly start like, playing video games or they had these avatar creatures fight each other for power, and that I thought that was really a wonderful little mix there. That was indeed very cute, very cute. And you could say that those are avatars, but you could also say that they could be spirits too. They could be spirits, depending on how you want to frame this whole thing. There's a lot of interpretation to this stuff. Now, every time they defeat one of the X's, coins appear. So it has that gamification, and you get that sound, that gaming sound. It's really, really cool. I grew up in, the arcade era of the 1980s, and just hearing those sounds, that's the slot machine sound and those, Pac-Man sounds. They replicate a lot of those sounds in here, and then explosions of coins are everywhere once you've defeated the bad guy. And so, and as Scott continues to fight and beat his opponents, he gets more and more coins. So it's just wonderful, just wonderful. All along, poor Knives is having a hard time. Scott has done the right thing and has broken up with her, but she's in a lot of pain. She misses him. She wants their relationship to work. And unfortunately, he's walking around with his new girlfriend. Ramona Flowers, it does not feel good. It's happened, definitely happened to me, and it's like, what, what did I do wrong? She's trying to change herself in order for him to like her again. What does Ramona have that she doesn't have? And it kind of breaks your heart a little bit to see it, but yeah, the movie doesn't shy away from it, and I like that. I like that. Then there's a scene where and Ramona's like, "What the heck?" Yeah, seeing this girl with with a blue streak in her hair, trying to emulate her, and it just is a little bit too much. That, but at the same time, she really likes Scott. There's something there. There's something there between them. So I think eventually, throughout the fights and stuff, Ramona has a tendency to leave and come back. And one of the times that she leaves, she comes back with Gideon. So she's like, yeah, I'm back with Gideon again, and so we're like boyfriend and girlfriend. And so that is definitely like gives Scott a big punch in the stomach and blow to his ego, of course, but also like how is this happening is pretty much what's going on in his mind. He's angry too. He gets angry, but Gideon is a mastermind, so he's really controlling, pulling the strings, and doing a lot of sneaky things. And you just look at his face and you know that he's planning something, he's designing something, he's manipulating something. And it's just wonderful. I love the way the camera plays to him. And he is being played by Jason Schwartzman, Gideon, or also codename G-Man. And G-Man is also the name of the record company that everybody's trying to get signed to. If you get a G-Man contract, you've really hit the big time. It's kind of interesting because Scott loses everything. He loses the band, he loses Ramona, and he's kind of like, he doesn't even have Knives. So he's kind of out on his own. And even his roommate, Wallace, is like, you got to find someplace else. I don't know where you're going, but you got to get out of here. And it's really heartbreaking because he's got nothing. He shows up at this performance and confronts Gideon. It's pretty interesting because by saying certain things, he gets certain weapons. Like one time he says, I am doing this because I love Ramona. And then he gets this fiery sword. And it comes right out of his chest. It's like really dramatic, but also visually interesting, very cool effect, if you will. And so he fights off a whole bunch of bad guys in order to get G-Man, and he actually dies. But when he's in the afterlife world, Ramona is there. She says, "Well, yes, Gideon has something, he really has an effect on me." And he's like, "Yeah, okay." And so he thinks that maybe, she's still in love with him or something. She's like, "No, he really does have an effect on me." And she shows him this chip that is installed in the back of her head. So Gideon has been controlling her through this like mind control trip, which I found very interesting. It's almost like somebody got your Saturday, after school cartoon and made it real life. Very much so, very much so. And I do love that aspect. They did nothing to make this realistic, and I love that. I love that. The sense of play here is on high, and I applaud that. I applaud it. And so we, with this newfound energy, Scott comes back with a vengeance, and this time he says, I'm doing it. I'm doing this for myself. And so the sword comes up again, and it's like, self-purpose. It's really kind of great. He gets rewarded for different stages of his awareness while he's fighting. They all kind of learn to team up and try to fight against Gideon. And what really does it in, though, is that Gideon lays his hand on Ramona. He slaps her around and throws her down the stairs. And even both of these guys, Knives and and Scott, they go on a rampage and beat the snot out of this guy. It's hilarious. It's funny, and it wasn't meant to be played as, hey, if you're an action lover, you're gonna love this scene. That scene was not made for action lovers. This was made for comedy. That was made for it was a comedic visual that really, not only made you laugh, it was a moment when you're like, yeah, the bad guy is going down. And it was really great. It was really great. Now, after defeating the bad guy, there is another level, which is Nega Scott, which is the opposite of Scott. So Scott has to fight himself. And at this point, the screen goes to black, and then we go to the next scene. And I kind of was very, very disappointed by that, because I was like, this looks like it was gonna be good. Imagine, the fight that you have with yourself. What that's gonna be a showdown to remember. And I wonder if there just wasn't enough time, because it already had been long enough. I think it was a lost opportunity to give us a really good moment there, as a physical fight scene, or to do something clever, and also to reveal something more deeper within this character. That was where I kind of was like, no. Yeah, I did not like that moment, but I understand they were already, the movie's about 112 minutes or so, and so I believe that they had to start wrapping things up. So uh, yes, I wanted more. I wanted more, guys. I wanted more. It looks like there's given a choice, like either one, you got to pick one of the girls. At this point, Scott understands that Ramona is a free spirit and she's going to do what she's going to do. And I don't think he was ready to really go back to Knives at this point, but I think he was willing to give it a chance, because she fought for him. She really did. It felt like Ramona wasn't really there for him. Initially, I thought that he was going to choose Knives, and he did, and he actually did choose Knives. But Knives said, "Look, this doesn't feel right. I want, you guys get together. There's something between you guys, and she's going to be okay. She is going to be okay." And I was really loving that, because I was like, first of all, this means that Knives did some growing. She did some serious maturing during this time. She's becoming a woman, really, and it was a nice arc for her character to make that choice willingly, to say, "Hey, I've been really in love with you for all of this time. Why don't you enjoy a life with this woman? I can see clearly there's sparks between you guys that I've never had between us. And so that was really good. I was like, oh, now this is good. I do love when movies make that kind of twist like that, but also it felt more realistic. So we've got all this high fantasy stuff, this really out of this world stuff, and then we come back to Earth just at the end. I loved it. Loved it. I was like, yeah, those two guys need to be together. They're insane. Both of them. They're so silly and insane. So I was very happy that Ramona and Scott Pilgrim ended up together because they're strangely enough awkward and cut from the same cloth. And the one of the things I really did love too, and I didn't express earlier, was how much they talked about Ramona and her ability to like let go in relationships. Whenever things got really, really tough, she left. She couldn't handle relationships if they got strong or if she started feeling strong feelings, and she left. Maybe they didn't go as far enough to sort of give us a reason why she did that, maybe something to do with her childhood, but I was satisfied that they did attempt to give us sort of a reason why she was as awkward and strange as she was. And yeah, great. I liked it. I liked it a lot. And on a scale from 1 to 10, I would really give this an 8.5. It has a lot of the things that I like, but my biggest gripe with this story is the pacing. The pacing is all over the place. I wanted it to be a little snappier. Case in point, the animated series was very, very snappy. It hit the point that it wanted to hit much faster than this movie. There were more slower build-ups to get to certain places, which I thought, well, we could have done this a lot faster. And not to mention, the editing in this is excellent. It's just certain moments where things have gone on way too long, but on the most part, a good movie. I recommend it for a nice, time where you want to just kick back and see something lighthearted. It's not too involved, and you don't have to use your brain that much, but you can just lay back and have some fun, see something funny, and lots of action in it. Definitely watch this. This is definitely a good feel movie, or a good feeling movie. It leaves you with a good feeling at the end of it as well. So, well, guys, that was really awesome. I love this movie, and I do recommend it. Definitely stay tuned for more first time watch videos, and I'll see you again real soon. Bye.